Hi, in this video we'll be having a look at the InfoBurst workflow for the bursting and distribution of a Tableau TWBX file. It's based on SAP Web Intelligence report. So the report will be based on a Web Intelligence report. This report can contain data from multiple data providers with merged dimensions. It can be a multi-source universe. It can have complex variables defined in the Web Intelligence report. Those will all be brought into Tableau. We'll be using InfoBurst to schedule the bursting of that TWBX file into individual files. In this example, it'll be product category. Once the TWBX file has been burst, there's multiple destinations that InfoBurst can publish the files to. In this workflow, we'll be looking at Tableau Server and email. So let's talk briefly about the software that makes up this solution and the architecture involved. So we have SAP Business Objects. A Web Intelligence report is the beginning of the workflow for this process. Business Objects has to be 4.1 Service Pack 6 and above. Then we have InfoBurst. InfoBurst uses an application repository that can either be Oracle or SQL Server. It allows us to tie into Tableau. We can create TDE and hyperfiles from InfoBurst, and we can also burst and split TWBX files. And the destinations that InfoBurst supports, multiple destinations. We have email, we have Tableau Server, we have SharePoint. There's a number of them. We're going to be illustrating a few of the destinations in this workflow. So let's get started on this new workflow, but first a refresher on part one of this process. So in a previous video, we took a Web Intelligence report. This is the one we have here where we have sales by territory and categories. We have it broken down by region, product category, and then furthermore by order year and the country within the region, and with totals and subtotals. So this is ideally suited for a Web Intelligence report. Not something you really want to do in Tableau, and actually it's pretty difficult to do this in Tableau. Almost impossible to get it formatted like this with the totals and subtotals in this format. In this report we have a raw data tab. That's all the dimensions and measures that we brought in from the universe, in addition to a couple of variables. These variables can contain complex calculations, and we can use those in Tableau without having to recreate them. We then took all the data from the raw data tab, and we used InfoBurst to create a hyperfile called AdventureWorks Sales that we published up to Tableau Server. Once we had that hyperfile based on the data from the Web Intelligence report on Tableau Server, we went into Tableau Desktop and we connected to Tableau Server, used that hyperfile as the source of this dashboard that I've created. So we've got 4 different dashboards, margin by employee, by color, sales over time, by subcategory. So we have a number of worksheets in here. We've even got a viz and viz in this worksheet up here. And the intent here is going to be to take this one dashboard that has data for all the different categories and break it up into 4 separate TWBX files, one for each of the 4 product categories that we have. So you'll note here it says sales product line for all. That's because I have for all categories right now. Once we burst this, it's just going to have data for the 4 categories: bikes, components, accessories, and clothing. So the goal here, once again, is to take a TWBX file and burst it into smaller TWBX files based on a specific dimension. The next step in the workflow, the final step in the workflow, will be to take the individual TWBX files and deliver them. So we're going to look at a few different deliveries. One is up to 1 project on Tableau Server. The other one is to dynamically publish them to different projects on Tableau Server that can each contain their own unique user permissions. And the third will be to email the TWBX file to, for example, to a customer. So I've created the Tableau workbook based on the hyperfile created from the Web Intelligence report. I want to use that Tableau workbook saved as a TWBX file in InfoBurst, so I have to catalog it in InfoBurst. So I go New Document, and I have it saved on my network, and it is called AdventureWorks Sales Master, this one. Click OK, and we've cataloged that workbook in InfoBurst. Okay, now we're ready to burst that TWBX file. So I'm going to, in Info Burst, I'm going to go New Burst. I've given this burst a name, Burst Webby-Based TWBX file. And I've also given a description saying that I'm going to take one TWBX file, I'm going to burst it based on product category into separate files, one for each category. I'm going to click on Add. I'm going to add the source document for this burst. It's going to be the Web Intelligence report. This Web Intelligence report will be refreshed before the TWBX file is burst with the most current data. All right, I'm going to create the filter now, and the filter will be product category name. I have a data source, a query run against a database that gives me my categories and emails. I'm going to be using the email column in a separate burst, but I need the product category split out, so the field in this query is category. I'll apply. Now I'll go to deliveries. Let's create a new delivery. In this case, we want to publish these TWBX files up to Tableau server. So that's what I'll name this delivery, and the type of the destination type will be Tableau server. I've already set up a Tableau platform on this instance of InfoBurst. This will give me a list of projects that I have access to on Tableau server. In this case, I'm going to publish this to IBTab workflow examples. The name of the dashboard or the TWBX files will be dynamic. So I'm just going to say sales dashboard, and then have it dynamically populate the product category name. Format will be a Tableau packaged workbook, and I have to select the TWBX file to embed, and that will be the one we just added to InfoBurst a few minutes ago. And the tab to extract the data from. So if you recall, in our Web Intelligence report, we had a raw data tab that had that block of data, and we also had a formatted report called sales by territory and categories. We want to take the data from the raw data tab. I'll click on Add. After this is added, I'm going to burst this right away. Click on Burst Now. I'm going to go to Timeline. I'm going to pause this video while this finishes. While this burst is running, I've switched over to Tableau server, and this is the folder I've specified the TWBX files to be published to, and you can see there are no workbooks here. I'm going to switch back to InfoBurst. We can see that the burst is still running. It's in the process of opening and refreshing the Web Intelligence report. I'm going to pause this again until it finishes. While the video was paused, InfoBurst did complete this process. For those of you not that familiar with InfoBurst, it does keep a very detailed audit log. And I'm going to email it to myself and show you what that looks like. We'll do that separately. So now I've completed the burst. Now I want to see if it actually worked. We're back on Tableau server. I've refreshed this page, and we can see there are 4 workbooks, and each one is named Sales Dashboard and then followed by the name of the category. So I'm going to open up the sales dashboard for bikes, and I'm going to have a look at the dashboard online. It's just loading up here. So the dashboard is working, and it is only showing information for bikes. Everything that we built into the original dashboard is still here. We have the viz and viz. We have the ability to filter. So I've taken one Tableau workbook and burst it on a dimension, in this case product category, into 4 individual separate files. We're going to take the workflow that we just built and tweak a little bit. On Tableau server, you can create projects and subprojects, and you can assign specific permissions to those projects. So in this example, we have 4 product category lines. We may have staff that are responsible, for example, for accessories, for bikes, for clothing and components, and we only want them to see the dashboard associated with that category. I've manually created subprojects for accessories and bikes. Now I'm going to go into InfoBurst, and I'm going to have it dynamically burst and populate these subprojects with individual TWBX files. Before we tweak that burst, a few minutes ago I mentioned about the detailed audit log that InfoBurst keeps, and I'd emailed myself a copy of the transaction log, or the timeline for the burst that I created, and this is the email that it sent. Tons of detail, every step of the process. It gives me information. If there was an error, it would show on the status, and I'd be able to jump right to the error message. It also will attach an Excel file that has the activity log as well. Just wanted to show that. So now we're going to go back in InfoBurst. So I've got the same burst open. I've already got a delivery to Tableau server. I'm going to create a new one that's going to meet this use case of putting it into dynamic folders. I'm going to name this delivery Tableau server projects, and the destination will be Tableau server, same as it was before. Select my Tableau platform. I'm still going to go ahead and select the root project, which is IB Tab workflow examples. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the macro builder here. I'm going to put a backslash and have the product category name dynamically inserted here. So that's the only difference that we've got here. I'm going to give the workbooks the same name. Actually, I'll change it a bit. Sales dashboard, and I'll say 4 product category name, just so you can see they're different. And the format will be Tableau package workbook. We're going to be using the same TWBX source file, and again the raw data tab. I'm going to click on add. Now you'll see in a minute here I've got 2 deliveries in this burst. I only want to run the second one, so I'm going to disable the first one. And I'm just going to run the Tableau server projects burst and click on burst now. Have a look at the timeline. I'm going to pause while this finishes. Okay, the burst has completed successfully. I'm going to switch over to Tableau server. And let's go back here. So I'm going to refresh this page. Remember, I manually created these 2 sub-projects earlier. I'm going to refresh this. And now, in addition to accessories and bikes, InfoBurst has created the other 2 folders which didn't exist before. Each of them has 1 workbook in them. Let's have a look at the clothing folder. And we see sales dashboard for clothing. I'm going to open this up and have a look at it. Again, I'm on Tableau server, so I'm looking at this through the web authoring capabilities. All right, so now we have the sales dashboard only for clothing. Again, the Viz and Viz works. I can filter based on the filters I defined in Tableau Desktop. So again, we have the dynamic dashboard. All the data that we want in this dashboard is here, and we have 4 separate TWBX files. So the great thing about this workflow is in your organization, if you have different departments that you want to burst one workbook and just have the users that should be viewing for each of the different dimensions in a separate project, you can configure the permissions appropriately, and then you'll have accomplished that task. Another destination InfoBurst can use is a network share. So in the case of a company that has licenses for Tableau Desktop but not Tableau Server, you can push the Tableau workbooks that have been split onto a network share, and you can also publish them to SharePoint as well. So a network share and SharePoint, 2 other alternatives. In this video I'm going to look at one more delivery method that we can use. If you have external customers, external business partners that also use Tableau, and you want to deliver a TWBX file to them, you can use email as a delivery. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new email delivery from blank. I'm going to just call this email delivery. And the destination will be email inbox. File name, I'm going to use the macro builder again. I'll just call it sales dash and then the product category name and apply. The query that I'm using to use as a source for filtering this burst contains the product category name and the email address associated with each one of the product categories. So that's why I have email available here in the macro builder. So I'm going to just have it send to email. And I can put a message here. Again, I'll use the macro builder. Here is the product category name. Dashboard. Apply. And I'm going to go to format. I want this to be sent as a Tableau package workbook. I want to embed the same TWBX file. And I want to take from the raw data tab. Let me just go back up to destination for a minute. The other thing I want to do is I want to zip this with a password. So I'm going to give the zip file a dynamic name. Sales for product category name. Apply. And the password, I can also use a macro to create a custom password for each one of these zip files. So you can create some kind of algorithm that you can share with your customers to make this ultra safe. I'm just going to type in a password. So we have one. I'm going to add this delivery. And then I'm going to run it, and we'll see if this sends out 4 separate TWBX files, each enclosed in an encrypted zip file. I'm going to disable the previous delivery that we had in this burst. And once this is disabled, I'm going to go ahead and burst now. We'll go to the timeline. I'm going to pause this video until it stops. While the video was paused, the burst completed successfully. We see that 4 emails have been sent. For testing purposes, I use a service called MailTrap. It's free depending on the number of emails that you send, but in this case it's sending all the emails from InfoBurst because I've configured it that way to this service so I can really have a good way of testing. So I see the first one has the accessories dashboard. Second one has the clothing dashboard. If I have a look at the attachment for the clothing dashboard, I can see it's got the sales dashboard TWBX. It's not in a zip file. So let's just have a look and see why that is the case. I'm going to go back into InfoBurst. Here is the burst I created. I set up the name for the zip file and a password, but I did not check the zip attachments checkbox. Had I checked this, it would have zipped the file up into a zip file with this password. So I think you would agree this is pretty powerful functionality to be able to take one dashboard and burst it based on a dimension. This example only had 4 categories that we burst the workbook on. But imagine a scenario where you have, for example, 50 customers and they're all Tableau users, and once a month there's a sales report that you send to them in a TWBX format. Now you could do that manually and have 50 dashboards and manually email them to them. I think the better alternative would be to have one dashboard and have an automated process to send them the files, and this way you only have to maintain one dashboard. So if there's a change to the dashboard, for example, you're going to add another visualization to it, you change one dashboard, not 50. That concludes this video tutorial. Thanks for watching. To learn more about Infosol and the products and services they offer, please visit infosol.com. If you'd like more information on the InfoBurst product itself, please visit help.infosol.com. There's a number of very useful articles on that site. Once again, thanks for watching.